In the winter of 1966, Carolyn Quall gathered a group of activists, physicians, clergy people, and neighbors in her home to talk about legalizing abortion. Together, they founded the Minnesota Council for the Legal Termination of Pregnancy to educate the public and reform legislation. At the time, legal abortion was hotly debated across the United States, not unlike it is today, in every walk of life, from hospitals to legislatures to advice columns. States had wildly differing standards for how and when and why abortion was legal. In Minnesota, abortion was banned without exception, even to save the life of the mother. Within a few years, our founders decided that legislative reform wasn't enough, and we aimed for repealing abortion law instead. In 1972, we changed our name to reflect this and became the Minnesota Organization for the Repeal of Abortion Laws, or NARAL. On January 22, 1973, the Supreme Court of the United States announced their decision in the case Roe v. Wade. Abortion law was now legal throughout the country through at least the first trimester. Members of NARAL celebrated, calls and letters of congratulations poured in. The highest court had recognized the right of women, married or single, to be free from unwarranted government intrusion into matters so fundamental as whether to bear a child, a right that necessarily includes the right to decide whether or not to terminate her pregnancy. All the same, NARAL's president, Betty Benjamin, warned us not to get complacent. We couldn't rest until the ruling was fully carried out here in Minnesota. And she was right. Throughout the 1970s, the activists of Minnesota continued to rally and lobby for their rights, adopting a slogan from the suffragist movement and standing shoulder to shoulder. In 1974, we changed our name again and became the Abortion Rights Council of Minnesota. Members of ARC gathered at the Capitol and in each other's homes to forward our cause through another decade. In 1983, we celebrated a full decade of freedom of choice with friends like State Representative Phyllis Kahn. But with abortion rights still under attack, we kept on working. We started our clinic escort program to counter the scare tactics of Operation Rescue, and started our own political action committee to have a more direct impact on Minnesota politics. And check out this flyer. Seems a familiar argument, doesn't it? As the century approached its close, we were celebrating 25 years of choice organizing in Minnesota, and a change of our name to Minnesota NARAL to reflect our long-standing affiliation with the National Abortion Rights Action League. Despite our hopes for a more pro-choice administration in Clinton, restrictions on abortion access spread like wildfire throughout the 1990s. For the 25th anniversary of Roe, our volunteers mailed hundreds of invites, and our co-directors sent out a special newsletter with 25 years worth of stories of the abortion rights fight. And the late 90s saw the start of our campus organizing program, training a new generation of activists. In 2003, Sarah Weddington, the lawyer who argued Roe v. Wade, paid us a visit on the 30th anniversary of the case. Only a year later, we were marching on D.C. in the thousands to protest the harshly conservative Bush administration's attitude toward choice. The new millennium was looking grim for everything we'd fought for in the last several decades. In fact, almost 1/3 of the restrictions on abortion access enacted since Roe have been passed in the last 5 years alone. Here in Minnesota, we have only 5 clinics that will provide abortions, and 4 of them are in the Twin Cities metro. Still, we're the safe haven of the Midwest. The Dakotas have 1 clinic apiece. Wisconsin is down to 3. And the legal barriers in all those states are much greater than here. And here at NARAL Pro-Choice Minnesota, we're going strong after 50 years. Our campus organizing program is thriving with 11 organizers on 6 campuses statewide. Our field canvas, launched in 2004, knocks on doors across the state from Rochester to Duluth. Volunteers escort women safely to their abortion appointments at 2 different clinics in Minneapolis. We're part of a national organization and a national movement to ensure that everyone has control over her own life and destiny. We've grown a lot in the last 50 years, from a few people in Carolyn Quall's living room to an organization of 60,000 members. In 1992, reflecting on the history of the group she founded, Carolyn said, "The people who began this work, of course, are getting older, in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and several have died. The struggle is not over for younger women. They must take charge of their reproductive destiny and remain active until choice is secured." And so we will.